What if I told you that everything you've been told about where your baby should sleep is quite literally wrong? I'm not saying it's dangerous, and I'm not saying it's irresponsible. I'm saying it is fundamentally out of sync with human biology. What is going on inside a baby's brain and body that makes your physical presence not just comforting, but biologically necessary? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today. And, trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to look at your baby's sleep in a completely different way. You might even feel a little guilty for ever putting them in that crib alone. But here's the surprising part. This isn't just about sleep. It's about survival. It's about evolution. And it's about a biological system so ancient and so powerful that it's literally running in the background of your baby's brain right now, every single night. Let's start at the very beginning. When a baby is born, their brain is, and I mean this literally, unfinished. At birth, a human baby's brain is only about 25% developed. Compare that to a foal, which can walk within hours of being born, or a dolphin, which can swim immediately. Human babies can do almost nothing on their own. And that's not a flaw. That's actually the strategy. You see, millions of years of evolution made a calculated trade-off. Instead of delivering a baby with a fully developed brain, which would require a skull so large it would be impossible to deliver, humans evolved to deliver babies early and finish the brain development outside the womb. Most of us have been told by books, by pediatricians, and by well-meaning relatives that the goal is to get the baby to sleep independently in their own crib, in their own room, as soon as possible. But what most parents don't realize is what that transition actually looks like from the baby's perspective. In the 1990s, a researcher named Dr. Tiffany Field ran a series of studies on infant touch deprivation. What she found was striking. Babies separated from their caregivers during sleep showed elevated stress hormones within minutes. Not hours, 2 minutes. And more recently, a 2012 study published in the journal Early Human Development tracked the physiological responses of infants sleeping alone versus in close proximity to a caregiver. The results were clear. When sleeping alone, babies spent significantly more time in a state of heightened autonomic arousal. In plain English, their bodies were on alert even while unconscious. Here's the wild part. They weren't crying. They weren't visibly distressed. From the outside, they looked like they were sleeping just fine. But on the inside, their biology told a completely different story. And this changes everything when you start thinking about what healthy sleep is actually supposed to do for a developing brain. Because sleep isn't just rest. For a baby, sleep is construction time. During sleep, the brain consolidates new memories, prunes unnecessary neural connections, floods the body with growth hormones, repairs tissue, and strengthens the immune system. All of that works better, measurably, scientifically better, in a low-stress state. And what creates that low-stress state in an infant? You already know the answer. Now, here's where it gets really interesting because there are two very different ways a baby can respond to that stress. Some babies cry immediately. They signal loudly and make sure you come back. But some babies go quiet. And the quiet ones are actually the ones researchers worry about more. Because a baby that stops signaling isn't a baby that's calmed down. In many cases, it's a baby that has learned its signals don't work and has shifted into a kind of shutdown mode. Biologically, the stress is still there. The cortisol is still elevated, but the protest has stopped. That's not independence. That's something else entirely. The biology of sleeping next to your baby might be one of the most powerful things you can do for their developing brain. There is a concept called physiological synchrony. When a baby sleeps in close proximity to a caregiver, particularly the mother, their bodies begin to sync. Breathing rhythms align, heart rate patterns start to mirror each other, and even sleep cycles begin to coordinate. It's like two metronomes placed next to each other on a table. Given enough time, they start to tick together. And this isn't just a cute metaphor. It's been measured, documented, and replicated in labs. A study out of Bar Ilan University in Israel measured the physiological synchrony between mothers and infants during sleep contact versus separated sleep. Mothers and babies who were in close physical contact showed significantly higher levels of biological alignment, right down to micro-level coordination of breathing. What does that mean for the baby? It means the caregiver's stable, regulated nervous system is actively helping organize the baby's less stable one. The mother's body is doing some of the work that the baby's immature brain can't yet do on its own. You are quite literally lending your nervous system to your child while they sleep. Now let me ask you something. If you knew that your presence next to your sleeping baby was doing all of that, regulating their heart, organizing their breathing, reducing their stress hormones, and improving their brain development, would you feel differently about the middle-of-the-night wake-ups? Would you feel differently about the idea of letting them cry it out? Keep that question in your mind because we have to talk about co-sleeping. The moment this topic comes up, the room divides. Half the people say it's dangerous, half the people say it's natural and beautiful. Most people are confused about what the science actually says. So, let's be precise. There's a critical difference between bed sharing, which is when the baby shares an adult sleep surface, and room sharing, which is when the baby sleeps in the same room but on a separate surface. The American Academy of Pediatrics currently recommends room sharing without bed sharing for at least the first 6 months. And the safety concerns around bed sharing are real, especially when there's alcohol, medication, soft bedding, or extreme fatigue involved. But here's what most parents don't realize. The AAP recommendation was shaped significantly by data from Western high-income households with specific sleep setups. It was not designed to condemn the practice of proximity itself. Researchers like Dr. James McKenna at Notre Dame, one of the world's leading experts on mother-infant sleep, have spent decades arguing that the question isn't whether babies should sleep near their parents, but the real question is how to do it safely. His research shows that breastfeeding mothers and babies who bed share in safe conditions show remarkable levels of physiological synchrony, reduced arousal thresholds, and mutually regulated sleep architecture. In other words, when done safely, proximity during sleep isn't a risk, it's a feature. So, if we know that closeness helps and we want to be safe, what does that actually look like in real life? First, room sharing is backed by both the science and the guidelines. Having your baby in a bassinet or co-sleeper within arm's reach gives them the proximity benefits without the risks of a shared sleep surface. Second, your smell matters more than you think. Studies have shown that babies who sleep with an unwashed t-shirt from their mother nearby show reduced cortisol levels and longer periods of quiet sleep. You don't have to be physically touching to have an effect. Third, the transition matters. If you're moving a baby from your room to their own room, the speed of that transition can affect how stressful it is for their nervous system. Gradual transitions tend to produce smoother outcomes than abrupt changes. And fourth, trust your instincts. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The urge to pick up your baby, to bring them close, to let them fall asleep on your chest. That's not a bad habit you need to break. That's evolution doing exactly what it was designed to do. But let's zoom out for a second. All of this, the biology, the evolution, the nervous system's synchrony. It's pointing at something bigger. The early sleep relationship between a baby and their caregiver isn't just about sleep. It's one of the first places where attachment forms, where trust gets built, and where the baby begins to learn at the most fundamental neurological level whether the world is safe or not. John Bowlby, whose attachment theory we mentioned earlier, believed that the quality of the early caregiver-infant relationship shapes, in lasting structural ways, how a person relates to others for the rest of their life. And we now know that one of the most vulnerable, most formative moments in that relationship is sleep. Because sleep is when the child is most helpless, most dependent, and most in need of the signal that someone is there. And when that signal is consistently present, the research is clear. Children develop more secure attachment, more emotional resilience, and more capacity for self-regulation later in life. So when you get up at 2 a.m., when you pull your baby close, when you lie there in the dark, listening to them breathe, you're not just getting through the night. You're building a brain. We live in a culture that has become almost obsessed with baby independence, sleep training, and self-soothing as milestones to be achieved as early as possible. Every family is different, and every situation is different. But remember this, your baby was not designed to sleep alone. That longing they have for your warmth, your smell, and your heartbeat isn't neediness. It is biology. It is connection. And it is exactly how we were meant to grow.